Hey everyone, it's Dr. Sam, and I'm here in my EyeClarity Podcast. This is part of the Vision Summit speaker program that I promised that I would share with you. And today we have a very special guest who's one of the speakers, and she's an amazing person. Her name is Donna Leah Van Fleet Getz, and she is Executive Director of Continuum Movement, founded by Emily Conrad, Donna Leah is the founder and owner of Cobalt Moon Center, a center dedicated to integrative health and somatic education in Neptune Beach, Florida. I've actually been there. It's a really cool place. Donna Leah has been an authorized continuum movement teacher since 1995, a Tai Chi instructor since 1990. She is a graduate of the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, and she has also served on the senior faculty as dean of the third year class, both in the US and Europe. She's also been on faculty at the Esalen Institute, Hollyhock, Kripalu, the Open Center in New York. And internationally, she has conducted workshops both in Continuum and Tai Chi, also in the healing arts. She serves as the chair of the Military and Veterans Committee of the Students Advisory Board of the University of North Florida. And she is also a PhD in somatic clinical psychology, and that's such a great combination with Continuum. And her current teaching program includes online virtuals, coursework, seminars, and I'll be repeating her website. We'll also put this in the notes, continuummovement.com and also cobaltmooncenter.com. So, Donna Leah, it's great to have you. I want to ask you, the first question is, can you give us a definition on, from your perspective, what is healing?
Okay, well, since I taught healing for many years at the Barbara Brennan School, I have inquired about this my whole life. To me, it's probably a little bit of a different definition than maybe other people would give. A lot of people might give the definition of to get well, to cure. For me, I go to a deeper definition of creating wholeness. It actually, the root of the word comes from an Old English word, and also has a Germanic background, which literally meant wholeness, to create whole. And so I am looking at what creates wholeness. Now, for instance, this may sound strange, but one of the most beautiful things that I have really experienced is being there and being supportive to people who were dying, who were transitioning. And I say they were creating wholeness in their, it was just such a beautiful process, Sam. And so it's creating a feeling of completeness instead of it being, quote, curing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that definition and that perspective. And yeah, when you work with the dying, certainly I've experienced it also. So I love that. So I guess one of the questions I have is what makes continuum movement different than other modalities? I mean, I'm asked this question as well. So I'd love to hear your perspective from where you sit.
Well, first of all, I didn't get a chance to say, but thank you for having me on this
Sure.
podcast, and how I just love dialoguing with you, Sam, because we really, when we talk, it is the way that I think it's meant to be, of talking and listening, and more comes from it. I learn from you, and I hopefully some things are changed in your viewpoint as well. And so for me, oh gosh, what makes Continuum different? Well, we both were, and I think I can say this, we both were in love with Emily Conrad, right?
Totally.
And
Still in love with her.
she she is, and she was just an amazing person, and she is one of the people I helped through the death process.
Mhm.
She we were so very close, and I moved out to be with her those last many months,
Mhm.
uh, and and there was wholeness created, which was really beautiful. What Emily, though, going back to continuum and what Emily had the vision for, is a modality. And let me also go back to, just for a minute, what does a modality mean? A lot of people get upset with using the word modality because it
Mhm.
tends to mean people were co-opting the word modality. But modality, the root word of that, I am into root words, but that
Mhm.
means the space in what, in a way that one is experiencing something. So a modality is the way one experiences. And for
Mhm.
me, that I love that. And because continual movement is all about experiencing.
Mhm.
What do you experience in it? Well, you and I know that we could be talking for a few weeks on this one, but
Mhm.
the basic thing that I say that makes continual movement different is things that I learned from Emily. First of all, it's not based in the past. A lot of, I teach Tai Chi. I love Tai Chi. I've taught it for 30 years.
Mhm.
But it came from a long time ago.
Mhm.
And and a lot of its movement and its principles are universal and very profound. But
Mhm.
what I like about, if you compare that to continuum, we are really alive in the here and now, and continuum movement comes from the here and now. What I mean by that is I'm always reading science stuff. I love research and that. And so anything that is current can actually be brought into continuum now. Like
Mhm.
your work. I mean, Emily really liked you. I would say loved you, Sam. I'm just going to say that. And
Mhm.
what she liked, and this is very continuum, she would talk with you and she would learn more about eyes. And she had her, because she had difficulty with her eyes. That was a
Mhm.
very important, interesting subject for her. So, the two of you talking and us talking today, we are doing continuum, but it's not based in some old rules. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, this is true, and we just discovered this. Then what about this? Can we
Mhm.
do this? And
Mhm.
what does that mean?
Mhm.
It's to me, that's what is very exciting about it. That
Mhm.
it is a
Mhm.
process of being in the now,
Yes.
and not in the past.
All
I
right.
could go on, but,
Yeah.
but if you want me to, I will. But here, let me say this too. I will have to say
Okay.
this. We combine things that science is now really learning about that is so important. Movement. Without movement, we are movement. That's an Emilyism, and movement's not something we do. It is something we are. So realizing we're movement, we are fluid, and coming from that perspective and living through that understanding of the body absolutely changes the way you approach how you move, how you exercise, how you meditate, how you all of these things. And then we combine sound and breath,
Mhm.
which so much work is being done on that, and so
Yeah.
much is being found out about that. So, as you can
Mhm.
see, I am I love, well, here's the thing. I'm 67 years old now, and I started movement and loving movement as a probably a 2-year-old child. I used to go out and dance, for God. I would tell my mom, I'm going out and dancing for God, which is a little bit of a strange thing to say, but that I would dance my prayers as a child. And so movement to me has always been very, very sacred. And sacred to me is that which creates wholeness.
Mhm.
So we go
Mhm.
full circle there. So
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. For those of you just joining us, I'm having a conversation with Donalia Van Fleet Getz, who's the executive director of Continuum Movement and also much more. And she's one of our featured speakers for the upcoming online Vision and Whole Health Summit. And we're having a really interesting conversation today. So I want to ask you, there are going to be people on this summit who maybe have heard of Continuum, but they've never done it before. So how would someone who's never done Continuum get started? What would be your recommendation?
Well, in today's world, I don't think it's ever been easier. I happen to know, Sam, you do virtuals on combining
Yeah.
continuum and so I'd say
Yeah.
tune into one of Dr. Sam's,
Yeah.
things, and
Mhm.
it can give you an introduction. Being online is really a good way to start learning it. And
Mhm.
it's we did not start this in Continuum just this year because of COVID. Emily, who was a visionary in so many ways, actually, oh gosh, wouldn't you say it's been 10 years ago that she
Yeah.
started doing online
Yeah.
things? And it may have even been longer than 10 years.
Mhm.
And she told me this, and we talked about it, and people said, "Oh, you can't teach continuum through conferencing and video and stuff." And she said, "We're going to have to. It's going to come a time where this is the way it's got to be done."
Mhm.
Was she well, prophetic?
Yeah.
How amazing is that? And so I remember the first one she ever did. I tuned on. I was a little skeptical.
Mhm.
You're not going to get a transmission from
Yeah.
this. Oh my gosh, we did.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And then since that time, the real truth is with Zoom and all the new things. I mean, I used to do GoToMeeting, now I do Zoom. The technology has so improved. And so I teach a lot online and love it. And we form these really loving bonding groups
Yeah.
and it is very intimate. Um, is it equal to being in a live class? It's if you can't do it any other way, then
Mhm.
it is more than equal. But
Mhm.
if, of course, I say come to live classes if you can. And on Continuum Movement on our website, we have teachers from all over the world, and their courses are listed. You go to teachers' events and that. So there's just so many ways, and it's
Mhm.
fun, you guys. It's pleasurable. That's one of the principles of continuum is it's actually you become physically more healthy, and it you and as you do it, you are having fun most of the
Yes.
time.
Oh, yeah.
How good?
I think one of the things I learned from Emily, and maybe you could speak about this, is Emily used to talk about the field, and that when we would get together, whether it's virtually or in person, the potency of the field is really one of the supports in the fluid body and getting us to be one organism. And what do you think about that? Do you feel the field is definitely part of this continuum movement process?
Definitely. And actually, I believe we are waking to the idea of field theory.
Mm-hmm.
I've studied it for a long time. I actually, Rupert Sheldrake, who's done a lot of work with it
Mm-hmm.
in England, is a friend of mine. Um, the whole idea of a field is not really foreign. We know of fields, but uh, we haven't really put that we are in a field and can feel a field. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, here's an example that most people understand about fields. Before a tsunami, what happens to animals that are along the coast and that they all go to higher ground, and elephants and that. Why? Because they can feel the field. They know something. They can feel the tsunami coming. And the thing about fields is I think it takes somebody becoming more sensitive in order to feel it. And that's what we do in Continuum. We create a I don't we tune to sensations, and I don't say we have extra sensations, but we tune and sensitize ourselves to our inner body connection, our inner sensations,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, we're more sensitive. So we do feel things, and
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you, I could give you probably 100 examples
Hmm.
of things where, one person is here and, well, how many of you, of the people that are on this podcast have thought about somebody, and then all of a sudden the phone rings
Sure.
and they go pick it up, and sure enough, that's,
Hmm.
or they are thinking about something, somebody, and then a little bit later they find out that maybe that person just went through something really drastic,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
field
absolutely.
theory, yeah. So field theory, it's like we just have to really start paying attention to it more, and
Hmm.
I think we're going to have more understanding about
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Continue. When I do my virtuals, I probably have, I don't know, 10 to 15 different countries on one of my
Yeah.
virtuals. And, it's sort of like then we make this web, this field across the whole world. And you can feel it. The more you sensitize yourself to these, um, what would I say, sensations, you just know. And then
Hmm.
and after we do what we call a dive, which is a movement sound experience, we come back and share. And you
Hmm.
would not believe,
Hmm.
this, Sam.
Yes.
Like there was this connection, and you just go, "What? How did you?" I had the same thing. How did that happen?
Hmm. Absolutely. So we are here with Donna Leah Van Fleet Getz, who's the executive director of Continuum Movement. And she's also one of the featured speakers for the upcoming Vision Summit. I guess the last question I want to ask you is continuum movement for everyone? Like when you teach continuum, what kind of a person, maybe what they've been through, who would benefit from continuum from your point of view?
Well, here's the thing. I do actually think continuum movement um, could be adapted to use for everybody. But it does depend, I would say, on the teacher and the teacher's ability, Sam. So what do I mean by this? So for regular people, it's wonderful, and it's really it's expansive, and but I am a psychologist, and mental health is really a strong consideration of myself for me, and somebody who is really struggling and suffering with certain things like maybe schizophrenia or really a deep depression, it's going to be harder for them unless they have a teacher that can understand and connect with
Sure.
them on their level of what they're experiencing.
Yes.
Um, you know what I mean by that.
Sure. Of course.
But Emily used to teach. She loved people who were paralyzed to teach and work with them because she was saying this is offers the greatest opportunity to bring movement back into somebody's life. And so
Hmm.
but the thing about continuum is you do I how what I would say is if you have a real strong block and you're very, very rigid and you cannot feel safe, then again, if you get the right continuum teacher, I think they can help lead you through all of that. But for some people, it may be asking too much too soon. My dissertation I did with the effect of the effect of Tai Chi on PTSD, and if you are returning a combat soldier from the Middle East, uh, continuum, and if you have not built up trust with a teacher, it might be that you start with Tai Chi because
Hmm.
that's a little bit it's not, it doesn't take you as deep into the feelings and sensations. It teaches you breath and that, and so that might be the first step, and then you go into continuum.
Sure.
What do you feel about it, Sam?
Well, I feel that continuum is so versatile. Working with kids, I work with a lot of the special needs kids pretty severely. disabled, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and just getting in a sound field with them and some touch, they awaken in such a way in their sensory motor systems and start getting so activated that blows the therapists away. Then you've got the traumatized people, as you've talked about. I actually think it can work for everybody because it's about self-regulating. And right now, with all our isolation, we need to connect, and continuum, it connects that fluid body, our resonance, our coherence. So, I have no prejudice about trying it on anybody. And if you're open, the magic comes in. And, I think you make a good point about the teacher because, the whoever is taking the class is going to tune to the teacher. We've seen this in the teacher modules. And I think part of what you're doing in creating new teachers is teaching them how to hold the space so people can have their experience. And some people are better at it than others, and it's based on one's own ability to heal their own traumas, their own, hurts and things like that. And you bring up a great point about mental health. And I think as a psychologist, what I've observed in watching you help people is that combination of the somatic intelligence that you're teaching them through continuum, and then the psychology support, and then the energetic through the things you've learned in Barbara Brennan. I mean, it's the whole package. And that's why I love, teaching with you, because you bring so much to the table, so much resource. And, I think I'm looking ahead in 2021, and I do think we're going to be able to gather again. It's going to take a while, but that's going to be phenomenal. And I know a lot of people are hungry for that level of physical contact. So that's my short answer for you.
Well, I love it. And I love teaching with you, Sam. And you and I are on a path. You're on the faculty of the Creating Continuum Movement,
Yeah,
the process. And it's
or
so important.
it is. It
We're
really is.
trying to change the world. I've
Yes,
been doing that for my whole life, and will
sure.
continue to do so.
Definitely. So we're out of time, but I want to mention your two websites, continuummovement.com and cobaltmooncenter.com. I know you've got some really interesting programs that you're doing. Do you want to say a little bit about what you're teaching looking into 2021? Let our audience know.
Well, you mentioned how can you learn continual movement. Well, my introductory course I call Essential Elements. It comes from Emily, and back at one of the very first teacher trainings Emily ever convened, she said, "What is essential to have in a continual movement class?" And we came up with all these different ideas, and she distilled them to it needs sound and breath and movement and sensation, and we have added innovation to it too, because
Love it.
it
Yeah.
must be an open system. It must be innovative.
Yeah.
So I teach a course. One of my favorite courses is called Essential Elements, and I started in January. So you can contact continuummovement.com. It's on our website, and if you wish to sign up for it. And it's just a great way to learn continuum. And there's a lot of teachers on this virtual, because the really truth of the matter is that you never learn something completely. It's, what is it, T.S. Eliot, that says when you return to the beginning, it's new again. So essential elements. If you've studied continual movement, I say, come back, because we just go deeper into the process of movement, deeper into the process. So that, and then from there's all kinds of wonderful things around the world that other teachers are doing. So that's on the website too. So there's just Also, the website, I will say, it just has a lot of resources. If you want to see Emily teaching on it,
Yeah.
or people like Connie Bainbridge Cohen or Stephen Porges or Sue
Hmm.
Carter that talking about continuum, it's
Yes.
all on there.
Yes. Yeah. And I highly recommend the website continuummovement.com because it is an incredible resource. You've done a super job in, putting that together. And I know it's kind of a work in progress and it takes a lot of investment. But if you're interested in continuum movement, I highly recommend the website. And that is true that the teachers who have been certified by you, they are fantastic and they each offer, something really different. So if you live in a certain area or you're interested in a certain subject, I use it quite a bit when making referrals to continuum teachers around the world. I mean, this is worldwide, which is really incredible. I know you've got a big connection in Greece, and actually the teachers from Greece, Mark and Maria, are going to be also participating in the summit. So they're super excited. And anyways, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you the best in 2021. I'm sure we'll get together in person. And thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
You bet.